It's mailbag time once again. We'll talk about the in-season tournament. Plenty of questions about that. Winning at home, bad third quarters, and which is the worst franchise ever in NBA history. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and I got you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device so you can listen to or watch however you want, whatever it is you're doing. All you got to do is subscribe. You're never going to have to pay for this podcast that hits 5 days a week, sometimes 6, like this podcast this week, because they play the Philadelphia 76ers here on Friday night. It's December. Friday night is December. Oh, man. Hey, listen, by the way, if you are so inclined, you want to listen to the show, maybe you're not listen to the game, I should say. You're not near a TV, you need to listen. Download the SiriusXM app, search Celtics. You can get the Grandy and Max call on the radio. If you're around the world, around America, download the SXM app, SiriusXM, get the local call. Hey, by the way, I'm John Karalis. Nice to meet you if you're new to the show. If you're a regular, an everydayer, thank you. You know who I am. Today we're opening up the mailbag, and we're answering a bunch of questions. As usual, later on we'll have a little bit more fun getting into teams. Like, when will the NBA have every team win a championship? It's not going to be soon, that's for sure. The worst franchise ever. We'll get into some winning at home and bad third quarters. But let's just get started here let's just get started first with Gametime. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use Lockdown NBA for $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets over there in the Gametime app. We're going to start with in-season tournament questions in this first segment. Gareth starts with the hypothetical: if the Celtics go on to win the tournament, do you think it could be detrimental, i.e. you've won something, it takes away drive or motivation for the regular season? Or is it beneficial because it's giving you a taste of winning, plus you've possibly won a high-pressure situation game, and you come through on the other side, gaining experience in that situation? So, Gareth, thank you for being an everyday listener. And I can see arguments, right? Because just Thursday, Jaylen Brown saying at practice, the in-season tournament has been good for them because there's monotony. It's an 82-game season. It gets, and to use his words, monotonous, mundane after a while. And this is the challenge. And this is why it's not only hard to win a championship, but it's really impressive when you win multiple championships. Teams like the Warriors, and go back to the old Celtics days, winning consistently over and over again. You're fighting through so much human nature, because after a while you just get to be like, oh, so bored with December and January. So the in-season tournament could be very beneficial, and it seems to be a little beneficial for these Celtics. I don't know how much of this is lip service, but they are at least saying the right things. They are looking at it and saying, hey, look, we're putting forth a little bit more effort. We had to try to win that game against Chicago by at least 23. So that forced them to play through some stuff and do some things that maybe they wouldn't have done normally. So they get up for these games, and it does break up the monotony of the regular season. So that's beneficial. Winning a championship of anything, even this first iteration of an in-season tournament, look, these guys are competitive. As I've said multiple times, you put a scoreboard on something, I think 90% of the people in that Celtics organization can be like, I want to win this. Whatever it is. You put a scoreboard on lunch, somebody's going to try to win lunch at the practice facility. That's just how it goes. That's how competitive people are. So I think juicing some of that can be good. But also, I can see the argument that you've gone through it. Maybe you've won it. Maybe you won the in-season tournament and it's December 9th. And then the next game rolls around. And you're like, all right, bored again. And that increases the boredom. It's almost like chasing the high. You get that high of winning something, and then now you're just chasing that again. You're not going to get it again to the playoffs. So you crash a little bit. I can see that possibly happening. I mean, so I don't know if it's going to, but if somebody wanted to make that argument, I'm not going to dismiss it out of hand. But I'm a positive person, so I'm going to say it's generally going to be a positive thing because of what it's kind of pushed the Celtics to do. And this what gets us into the next couple of questions here, which are part of the same kind of thing. Edison says, I don't know what the big deal is as far as the in-season tournament. It adds juice to a boring season. Point differential thing. I love it too. When I used to play basketball, I wanted to crush my opponent for a wide margin. And, and he's talking about this from Paraguay. So there's, I think around the world, a lot of people are like, yeah, what's the big deal? And even Joe Mazzulla was saying, that he talked to Kristaps Porzingis after the game and said, and Porzingis was like, I don't understand why there's a lot of, whatever is being said, because isn't the most respectful thing you can do to a player or to a team is play through the buzzer, which I personally, I 100% agree with. But my number one thing that I absolutely hated when I was playing was somebody trying to take it easy on me. Like, if another team, like we were playing, like we're, Division III in college, and sometimes you play some bigger competition, and like they started screwing around and they started not taking seriously, and that pissed me off. And like, I don't care that we were losing by 30 or 40. Like, I would rather lose by 100 against the team that is trying their best the whole time than lose by 50 to a team that's screwing around and laughing and joking and throwing stuff. That's how you get into fights. That I would absolutely want to punch somebody who is screwing around in my face. And like, so what? You're more talented. Like, have the respect for me as someone that's coming at you to, like, yeah, if you're good enough to beat me by 100, then beat me by 100. So I understand that concept very, very well. So that's something that I think the Celtics can benefit from some of that. You know what I mean? Like, they can benefit from some of that. Jarrett, fold this in. The key to the Celtics closing game strong. Point differential on a trip to Vegas. How can the Celtics artificially recreate that mindset every fourth quarter? And yes, it was playing against the Bulls, but how about understanding that, under normal circumstances, playing as hard as they did would have gotten them more rest than if they had come out and kind of messed around. And I do think introducing the concept of, you're actually disrespecting your opponent by taking it easy on them can be something that will be beneficial, because that's something that they need. They need that. And if there's the silver lining, like I said in yesterday's show, the silver lining is if they learn that, hey, play through until Joe Mazzulla says stop playing and puts you on the bench, then this whole thing was worth it. One last quick one here. Mike says, let's assume this is a ratings bust and it doesn't come back next season. What happens to the stupid floors? All right, first of all, it's coming back next season. This is not going away anytime. Teams were not forced to buy these things on their own. The league is basically, my understanding is the league is renting these floors. They repainted them and they are going to return them to their rightful owners for them to be repainted and repurposed for use in other situations. I don't know how much of that is public knowledge, but that's my understanding that this is not something the Celtics are not on the hook for the floor. And hey, let's end this on a fun note, because Mike also asks, who's your all-time dark alley threesome for the Celtics? I'd go with Marcus, Tony Allen, and Joe Klein. Nice. Marcus would also be on mine. Let's go with Xavier McDaniel, because he was big badass. And I'm going to go way, 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 way back to the original days and say Jim Loskatoff is going to be my third dark alley threesome. He was the original enforcer. Why did I pick him? I didn't see him play. He was playing when my dad was born. My dad was 3 years old, or actually my dad was 8 years old in Greece when Jim Loskatoff was drafted to play for the Celtics. So, but why pick him? Because there's nothing more dangerous than an enforcer in sports in the mid 1950s, when the rules were basically, go ahead, you can basically punch somebody. That is a dirty SOB out there. And I feel like Loskatoff would, if you gave him a tire iron, he would have used it in the game. So I'm going back. Shout out to Chris Berman, to those days, and I think he'd be a good back alley guy. Let's get into the third quarter stuff. Winning at home. We'll do that next. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Why? Because they do things like give new customers $150 in bonus bets for just winning a single $5 money line bet. All you got to do, if you're new or if you want to sign up, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. You sign up, you make a $5 money line bet. When you win, now you get your money, whatever that is, first, and then you get $150 in bonus bets. So that's fantastic if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, this is a great time, and you can do all the simple stuff, the fun stuff, the easy stuff. Pick against the spread. Celtics have been double-digit favorites all along, and they are. I'm sure they're going to be favored against the 76ers. So whatever, pick against the spread, pick the over-under. Go ahead and do that, or you can get more complicated stuff, in-game parlays, same-game parlays, all that stuff. It's all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. I encourage you to use the tools that FanDuel has to protect yourself. If you want to have fun, set your limits, set your parameters, use the tools that they have in place, and you can go ahead and gamble responsibly. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Now go check out the coolest thing that we have on YouTube, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. 24/7 streaming sports, Locked On Sports Today. It's 24 hours, all day, every day, of the top stories around the league, around sports, around everything, plus all of our national shows covering every league. Find it where you found this podcast. Let's get back into the mailbag. And Lance Cook, any thoughts on why we're so bad in the third quarter? It's interesting. I don't know why. And I think one of the reasons might be tied to some of the questions that I got in the first segment, where the Celtics have generally built some good leads, and they don't suck entirely in all of the third quarter. They hit a skid. They hit a little bit of a rough patch. And sometimes it's with the bench, and sometimes it's when Jayson Tatum sits, and sometimes it's just, I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint because I don't think it's the same every time. But I think it is often a combination of the Celtics have a lead. Your best player sits on the bench. The continuity hasn't fully been there. Like Jaylen Brown had not been particularly great. He was fine, but over the last 3-4 games, he has really exceeded. And I think if he continues to play that way, the third quarter thing might start to go away. But the Celtics have played with leads, and they haven't been good with leads, generally speaking. The other team gets desperate. They ramp it up. They hit another level. right? The desperation kicks something into gear and they start to play harder. And sometimes other teams, they make their runs and they get their confidence up and they start feeling it. And the Celtics just are slow to respond. And that's on the players, like sometimes some people want to blame Joe Mazzulla for not calling certain timeouts. Okay, maybe that could help once in a while, but there really is no proof that calling timeouts stops anything. Like if you're going to sit there and say, yes, John, there is, did you not just watch the Chicago game? Like they called all kinds of timeouts. Nothing slowed the Celtics down. Nothing got Chicago back on track. Nothing. The Celtics kept on rolling after timeouts. So there's no proof that helps. So I think just the combination of all those things gives the Celtics the right combination of kind of letting things happen. And they're not playing, their heads aren't in the right places. They stop executing the things that they had been executing. They stopped running, they take quick shots. A lot of times they get into answering versus just playing. And that's a very big distinction here. When you get caught up in answering the other team, you get away from the things that you've been doing right. And you feel like, I need to get a bucket. We need to get a bucket here. And you stop trusting your teammates. That's another big factor in these runs. The trust in the teammates goes away and the trust in oneself gets bigger, and that becomes more isolation heavy and turnover prone and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different reasons for it. And for it to keep happening in the third quarter is problematic. But I think, like I said, if Jaylen can kind of get back on track and, you start getting Porzingis back and you get Holiday back, at 100% and all of that, I think you can start stemming that. So it might just be an early season kind of thing. We'll see. We'll see if it continues. Zoe says, ain't no so far from home. I feel like one of the Celtics issues in the past was playing at home, especially in the playoffs. So it's great to see them succeed at home in the early season. So this is clearly a response to the Miami series where they couldn't win at home. You're supposed to win at home, and the Celtics are. They haven't lost. And the old saying goes, you win at home, you split the games on the road, you're going to have yourself a nice little record, right? 41 games at home, 41 games on the road. You win at home, no one's going to go 41-0, but you win most of your home games and you win half of your road games. Well, that's 20. You'd say 21-20. You'd add 21 to your 38 wins or 36 wins, 35 wins at home, and you got yourself a nice 56 win season, right? So that's the formula. Now you hope you're better than that on the road and you're not just 500 and you get yourself up to a 60 win season. And 60 is like the magic number for a great team. You're not far from being a great team if you just win at home and split your road games. So, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's what home court advantage is. Boston is 8-0 at home, 6-4 on the road. They are 14-4 overall. So that gets you almost 78% winning percentage and the best record in the league. That's your formula. So I think things are different now. And I think they will be different in the playoffs. Let's wrap up this segment by saying, by Nathan, with Nathan's question says, can you clarify what Oshae Brissett's skill set is supposed to be? He's clearly a great athlete. Seems like a good teammate, but the dude cannot shoot a lick. Does not seem to rebound or play defense very well either. Well, he's definitely an energy guy, and his form is not good. I hate to say it. I watched him shoot. He has this big looping gather. It's slow. It's kind of janky. It doesn't snap into place until the very top of the shot, and it doesn't always snap into place. I don't know how he got away. It constantly blows my mind how guys get to the NBA without a reliable jump shot. But they do, because they're supreme athletes, and they do. But he's an energy guy. He does rebound. He can get in there. He can keep offensive rebounds alive. He can get up there and catch your alley-oops. He can go out there and be just an energy defender, kind of disruptor kind of guy. But that's kind of where he is. His jump shot form makes him prone to like streakiness. So that game, that last season he scored, I forget how many points, like 30 something against the Celtics. That's going to happen. And you can go to him every once in a while. And if he starts hitting shots, then I would say play him like a starter. If you ever have Oshae Brissett in the first quarter and he hits 2 3-pointers in the first quarter, all of a sudden that dude better get 34 minutes that game, because take advantage of him feeling it. That's a confident shooting night. So it's hit or miss with him, but whenever the Celtics are looking a little logy out there and they need like a B12 shot, Brissett's that guy, and he should be that guy. We'll continue this with a little bit more fun, including alternate universes with Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, the worst franchise in NBA history, and more. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Our good friends at Gametime are the best place to get your last-minute tickets. And if you go there and you use the code LOCKEDONNBA, you're going to get $20 off your purchase. Why should you use Gametime as opposed to all the other ticketing apps? Well, Gametime makes it super easy to get your last-minute tickets to anything. Whatever show, whatever game, maybe you are in the Vegas area and you want to get in on the in-season tournament. Well, you might have to pay a price, but they'll be there on Gametime, and they'll be the cheapest price you're going to find because they have the lowest price guarantee. Maybe you were planning on going to something and you changed your mind and you want to go to something else. Whatever it is, sports, comedy, it's all there on the Gametime app. You can see the view from the seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you expect when you show up. You got all in prices up front, so you know your total. You know you're getting a great deal without the hidden fees. The worst thing is going to checkout and you're like, whoa. That's not what I thought I was paying. And you buy the tickets in 2 taps. And with zone deals, you pick the section. Gametime picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. Go download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKED, Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm one of the many rotating hosts, new hosts every day, 5 days a week, covering the league. I got the Wednesday show with Jake Madison. It's a lot of fun. If you want to keep up on the NBA and have some fun there, check it out where you get the Locked On Celtics podcast. Get back to the mailbag here with Jimmy's question. Jimmy asks, whatever happened to Big Baby Davis? I hope he's okay. He's not okay. Davis was just convicted on healthcare fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiring to make false statements, all in conjunction with this scam that he and others were pulling to submit fake healthcare invoices to the player's health plan so they can get reimbursed for stuff that didn't happen. I don't know what he's going to get sentencing wise, but healthcare fraud in New York can get up to 10 years. Wire fraud can bring up to 20 years. So Big Baby might be going away for a little bit. And I bring this up only because I'm just so dumbfounded by why anybody would even do this. You're an NBA player. You've made millions of dollars. What are you doing trying to get this extra little bit, this chump change? But I tell you what, bringing it back to the in-season tournament makes you realize how much these guys might actually want the $500,000. If some guys in the NBA who make plenty of money are going to go through this, commit crimes to get a little extra cash from the healthcare system there, Yeah, you bet that they're going to want $500,000 for playing in this tournament. Yeah, but Big Baby, he's had a tough time, a tough go after his retirement. So I don't know. I do hope he's okay. I honestly hope he's okay. Because this is not a sign of somebody who's got it together. All right, let's move on. Greg, in a parallel universe, does Kyrie Irving keep his word and stay with the Celtics? Does Gordon Hayward avoid injury as well? Yeah, of course. If we want to go with the Rick and Morty, there's infinite timelines with infinite possibilities. There's a timeline where Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward stick around and stay healthy, and the Celtics win 4 championships in a row. Who knows? Who am I to say there aren't infinite timelines? Who am I to say that I'm not doing this podcast at this exact time in some other timeline talking about Kyrie Irving in his, what would this be, his 6th, 7th season? And Kyrie Irving is one of the best Celtics to ever play, and he's going to etch his name into Mount Rushmore and making the case for Gordon Hayward to make the Hall of Fame and all of that stuff. Sure. Why not? Infinite timelines, infinite possibilities. These next 2 questions are fun. Tara asks, which team through its entire history do you believe is the worst franchise in NBA history and why? I've thought about this for a while, and there are some, like there's a cop-out answer. The cop-out answer is the Charlotte Hornets, because the original Charlotte Hornets are now the New Orleans Pelicans. So that franchise is still mildly successful now. They're and who knows, they've got Zion Williamson. They could take off at any time. Few moves, they could be really good. In the prior iterations of Charlotte, I remember, Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning and Muggsy Bogues. Those teams are good. So that Charlotte is fine. But the current Charlotte, the former Bobcats, then Charlotte Hornets, the Michael Jordan Charlotte Hornets, absolutely. But they've been around for such a short time. It was basically Kemba Walker's career plus a couple years on either end, right? So I don't want to say that, because it takes away from some of the other franchises who have had their chances. I can say the Knicks, because the Knicks have been good and they've won championships. Not many. What do they have? 2? For an original team, that's bad. For a team that's been around for as long as they have, the Knicks certainly can make a case, because for a big market team, for a marquee team playing in Madison Square Garden, the place that everybody seems to want to play, one of the big marquee venues in all the world, Madison Square Garden, for that team to only win like a couple of times in the 70s, like that's awful. And James Dolan is one of the absolute worst owners we've ever seen in any sport. I mean, he's lucky that some other guys have been worse. Sterling was worse. What's his name that just sold the Washington? What are they? The Commanders now? Like that guy, whatever, I forget his name. He's worse. Totally drawing a blank on his name. There are worse guys, but not many than Dolan. And Dolan also has his band that he forces to open for, he opens for some band in Madison Square Garden. Regardless, the Knicks are up there. I want to say the Knicks, because the Knicks should be on par with the Celtics and the Lakers, or closer to the Celtics and the Lakers, with their resources, with how much money they could spend before all the rules changed. With all of that, the Knicks have had multiple chances. And sure, to be fair, they had some really good teams that just had to go through Michael Jordan and couldn't do it. And that's how it goes. You play at the wrong time, and you've got the best player ever to, that's in your way and you can't beat them, that's tough. But hey, when you're that much of a big market destination that everybody wants to go to, you should have won more. And so they are very much there. However, Washington is there for me. I think it's between Washington and the Clippers. The Clippers have never won. So they might win the tiebreaker. Washington has been, now they've also had some good teams back in their Bullets days. And Wes Unseld is one of my all-time favorite, most underrated players we've ever seen. That dude was tough. So I think it's going to be the Clippers because the Clippers are in LA. Well, they started in San Diego. But they have all the same advantages of a good weather team. They've just been, I mean, talk about cursed with the worst owner. I mean, God. But the Sterling days certainly make them worse than the Knicks. They haven't won. They've had their chances. They were either cursed or whatever. And they just, even when they're good, they can't get out of the second round. So that's my very long-winded way. Remember the what's that game show? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Where you talk through all your answers? Like that's what I just did. You talk through all the answers and final answer, LA Clippers. And of course, that's the correct answer. Which leads me to Ash's question. When do you believe the NBA will catch them all? And by that, I mean, when do you believe every team in the league will get their first championship? Well, I just told you the Clippers have never won. There are 10 teams who have never won. Phoenix, Memphis, Minnesota, Brooklyn, Indiana, Charlotte, New Orleans, Utah, and Orlando, along with the Clippers. They have never won championships, those 10 teams. So the earliest it could happen is in the next 10 years. So 10 years from now, if Phoenix, Memphis, Minnesota, Brooklyn, Indiana, Charlotte, New Orleans, Utah, Orlando, and the LA Clippers all win one after another, that's probably not going to happen. Although Phoenix has a shot this year. Minnesota is good enough. Look, we could see. I'm not going to say this is going to happen, but you could have Phoenix, Minnesota, Orlando. They're good enough. The Clippers can actually do it. I don't think they will because they got Harden now, and that's going to sink them. But you can go, let's just say LA does it this year. Phoenix does it next year. Minnesota finally breaks through a year after that. Orlando the year after that. The Pelicans the year. You have not outside the realm of possibility 5 in a row. I don't think that's going to happen because I think it's going to be Boston this year. But you could have 5 in a row. But then you get into these rebuilding teams. And I don't think maybe Utah will be ready. Maybe Charlotte. No, that's going to be your mess up. Charlotte has to start completely over. The Pacers could do it. The Nets could do it. Ultimately, some tragedy is going to befall these teams. The Clippers, if they don't do it this year, maybe next year, they're done. So they have to reset. So that's going to be like a 6-7 year process before they even have a shot. So it's going to take a while. I don't even know if I'm going to see it in my lifetime. I'm talking about like, now look, I'm 50. So even like clean living, optimistic view. What do I got? 40 years left? Can I make it to 90? If I make it to 90, I won't remember answering this question. But even then, I'm not even sure. Will we see it? I don't even think Charlotte will do it. I don't think Charlotte would ever do it. So it will take at least, by the time some of these teams fail and rebuild and all that stuff, we might not see it until 25 to 30, maybe more years from now. I'd say 30 years from now, there's a chance. But because some of these teams are just going to try and fail and get close. Two of these teams, like two of the last 4 teams, are going to play each other, and eliminate one another before they even get a chance. So who knows? It's going to take a long, long time. Just like this podcast went a long, long time, but now I'm ending this podcast. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. Your questions can always be submitted at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. johnkaralis.com/mailbag. That's where you submit the questions. It's the only place you can submit the question because I'm not going to see it anywhere else. So please do that. Everyone else, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. All of that stuff. If you're not a subscriber yet, please do so. If you are a subscriber and you're an everydayer, please spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell everybody. Tell the people in line that you're shopping with on the weekends, if you still go to stores, that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.